Hey, 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 I hope you are doing well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm live today. I did not announce it at all because, take some of that pressure off. Before I jump in, let me make sure I have sound. Just a moment. Let's see. Okay, so do we have sound?
Sound.
Okay, looks like we have sound. So I'm going to jump in. I hope you're doing well. I hope everyone's doing well. So as we see from the title, like as promised, I think this was 2 weeks ago that I was going to work through how I paid off £12,000 worth of debt in 12 months. Now I've got a funny setup here today. I am not a technical expert, right? I'm not a technical expert. And so I wanted to share my screen. But as you know, sometimes the camera quality on the laptop is not the best. So I am actually filming. This is live. This is live, right? This is the great thing about live. So I'm using the camera from my phone, but I am hosting it live on my laptop because YouTube doesn't allow you to stream from your phone until you get to a certain number of subscribers, things like that. So I'm trying to work out this whole thing here. So when I start, I'm actually going to be facing this way rather than looking in the phone camera, which is here. So that's all it is. My apologies. But you know what? If I keep waiting for everything to be perfect before I share the information that I want to, then it's not going to happen. So we're going to work with what we have, and we're just going to go from there. It's live, so there'll be no editing, anything like that. So let's hope the internet holds strong, and we are going to jump in. Okay, so let me adjust myself a little bit. Like I said, it's gonna look like I'm facing a different way. Apologies, that's just how it's going down. So debt. If you have been listening to me, maybe most of last year, I was saying lots and lots about how I had a focus on working through debt, clearing debt, and I had some women with me that were going through a debt journey clearance together. And I hit that goal at the start of this month, so on the 1st of June. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to talk you through how I got into the debt in the first place and then how that was paid off. So to get that ready, I am going to share my screen right now, which is part of why I wanted to do it here, because I wanted to share my screen. Okay, so there should be no audio from this actually, so it's actually fine. There we go. Let's share this on titled sheet. There we go. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so that we can see a bit clearly. I hope that is clear. Let me just have a quick check on my phone that that size is okay to actually see before I start going into it. And let's have a look. If we refresh this page, so okay, looks quite small, so I'm gonna make it a bit bigger because I'm not gonna be able to edit it once I get further down. Okay, there we go. Because all I really wanted you to see was sort of the main things that contributed to the debt and how much each item was. So as you know, I set up the business, the Budget Fairy, which is a coaching service, a coaching to support people who want to learn how to budget, how to manage money. Ironically, to get that started and get the coaching that I needed, I had to get some money from somewhere to sort of fund that. So let's start with the first one. The first thing that I spent on was getting a website domain. That was on Wix. I got it for a duration of 3 years, and that amount was £32.40. Then we had the website hosting. This was on Wix as well. This was £181.80. Then I had to get a laptop. I didn't have a laptop. So I got a laptop off Amazon. It was not brand new. So it was just £165. That is the laptop that I still use now. It's like an oldie but a goodie sort of thing. It does the job. That was £165. The bulk of the money was on the coaching. The coaching, that was £9,000. It was over 12 months, so it worked out around 800 and something pounds every month. Learning the skills that you need to learn cost money. Now, I'm being really transparent here, sort of going into this level of detail, because I want you to see what it takes sometimes to learn the things that you need to learn. So this is where the bulk of the money went to. And if you see here, I have the start of the subscription dates on here as well. You can see they all started sort of around the same time, around the summer of 2019. These were the earliest things. Then I got a phone. Let me see, make sure I still have, yeah, that is still working. Okay. So then I got a phone. The phone that I had then was broken. I knew that I wanted to make live videos and things like that, and that just couldn't support that. So I got a phone for £149.99. So call that 150. The lady I got the coaching with as well, she got herself like a TV slot. And so I think I mentioned that as well about going on Fox. So there was some cost associated with that as well, which is quite high. So let's round that up to £4,000. Then advertising, Facebook advertising. For this one, I've got here the specific months that I spent those on. So that was for the month of February, for the month of March. This was all for 2020. So you see here a huge variation between that and that, £23.14 and £105.41. Then I had a marketing software. This is where I did my email capture, manage my client mailing list. My stutter, you're going to hear all today is great. My client mailing list, things like that, send out emails, did a capture page. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a like a sign up page where I had my freebies. I'm blanking out on what it's called now, but I'm sure it's going to come back. But all of that was on there, and that was with Get Response, and that was £129.89 for a year. So then I paid for a business email. This was also through Wix to kind of link everything. That was £60.04 for the year. Some more Facebook advertising for each month. So we had April, May, and June, all from 2020. Again, we see that variation there, depending on how much I felt I could put towards that. Now, not all of this were it wasn't everything that I got into debt for at the start. Some of these smaller costs I paid for them upfront, but I just have in one place all the expenses that were linked to business. Then I had a mastermind with Dean Graziosi, some more Facebook advertising, social media training, things like that. But in summary, the £12,000 worth of debt can be summarized into this £9,000 here and this £4,000 here. So just a bit over. I'll say those were probably the things that took up the most. And so if I scroll across here, let's go this way. Let's get to the top. There we go. So going across here, where are we on now? So I started tracking this in May of 2020. I had 4 credit cards at the time that I was working with. And this is what I did. So that sort of leads me to the first point. The first point of how I paid it off was to, first of all, get a monthly tracking system in place. So I was tracking this on a spreadsheet. I eventually got to, on the first of each month, sort of tracking it, looking at each card, how much was on there, so I knew exactly what it was. And so when I started tracking this in May of 2020, the Santander Bank card had £2,334.73. MBNA had £2,447. And the Barclays card had £3,228.05, and the M&S credit card had £3,897.56, altogether for a total of £11,907.34. That's what I owed at the start of May of 2020. Now, when we scroll down to the month of June, it actually went up a little bit. So this is 1st of June of 2020. I hope this size is still okay. Let me just double check that. I keep worrying that you're not going to see what I'm showing. What I'm going to do, I'll try and make it bigger. Let me just double check that. I keep worrying that you're not going to see what I'm showing. What I'm going to do. I'm sorry. You can hear my sound echo. I'll tell you what, if I turn this sound down, because all I'm really trying to see here is the size of the screen, not necessarily my face. So let's see. Is that size okay? I tell you what, I'll make it bigger. I'll make it bigger again, just in case. So I want to make sure you can see it. I want to make sure you can see it. Maybe the internet is playing up. I'm going to be so gutted if I finish this and the internet is playing up. But I am going to carry on. I'm going to carry on. And there we go. So like I said, on the 1st of June, we actually ended up with a bit more. So let me see, where was that difference from? So we had Santander went up a little bit. Actually, MBNA went down. So did Barclays, and M&S went up as well. So we had 2 go up, 2 go down. At the start of June, we're at £12,192.82. So this is something that I'm not showing here. I have this as part of my course, but something else that I plugged these numbers in were in comparison to my total net worth, what that was and how this number impacted that. In summary, your net worth is a combination of everything you own versus everything you owe, and what is the difference. So seeing what this number did to my net worth, that was motivation for me, because to be honest, my net worth was in the negative at that point. So here we are, June. Let's scroll down to July. What happened in July? I tell you what happened. I got a tax rebate in July. I got a tax refund of, let me get that number for you. I have that number down somewhere. You see, I have my other phone. So this was the one that was broken, that I can't do lives on, but it still has its function. Okay. So I got a tax rebate from HMRC for £1,249. That just went straight into debt. That went straight into the, and that is, let's call that point number 2. When you have a goal, when your goal is to be debt-free, tax refunds, things like that, you're going to be at a point where you can put everything, if possible, towards that, if not most of it, to go towards that. If getting debt-free is something that is important to you. So that's why we have that huge difference there between the month of June and July, where we essentially took this down. Santander card went from 2,215 down to £685. Now, the other thing I want to highlight there as well, if you see, the Santander balance is the smaller one. So if you're familiar with debt repayment strategies, there's quite a few, but 2 that sort of stick out are the snowball and the avalanche. With the snowball, you're starting with the smallest amount that you owe, and you pay that off first, and then anything that's left over, once that's cleared, you put it onto the next smaller one. Throughout the whole time, by the way, you are making the minimum payments. So I went down the snowball route, not by a huge difference, but the Santander balance was the smaller one, and so that's what I attacked first. I mentioned making the minimum payments. That was, let's call that step 3, whatever point we're on now, knowing what the minimum payments were, being absolutely clear on them. That sort of goes hand in hand with knowing how much you owe in the first place. So once we knew how much it was, and next thing, how much is the minimum payments that have to go towards that. Okay, so this is how we went from the month of June to the month of July, making a huge dent to the Santander payment. By the time we got to the month of August of 2020, that Santander amount was paid off. That £685, that was easy, that was paid off, that was done. The other thing as well I did, let me just pull this up. Last payment, MBNA. We had the MBNA 2397 as well. Now, because this was a goal that I was really focused on, this was something that I really wanted to clear. I pulled money from anywhere that I could pull it from. Now, I know not everybody has access to this. Not everybody can do this. And so it's not an option that may be available for everyone, but I pulled money wherever I could pull it from and put it towards that. So in the month of August, we were able to clear these two. So if I go down here, so I really did make that tax rebate work. This is an aside when I say where I pulled it from. I trade in Forex as well, sort of automated, and I had some money in that account because paying off this debt was something that was just on my mind. It was just something that I was determined to target and get done. I moved some money around to do that. And actually, this is not the only time that I did that. I did that as well further down the line. Okay, so at the end of August, we were left with Barclays, which was £3,064 and 39 pence, and M&S £4,914 and 13 pence, for a total of £7,978 and 52 pence. So we continued making the minimum payments. As you see there, the minimum payments roughly around the £200-300 mark for each one. And so you see sort of go down by about £400 between August and September. So we kept paying that off. At the end of September, we were £7,566 and 73 pence. I can't get my words out. Okay. And then we go into the month of October. I'm just looking through and seeing sort of how I really was focusing in there. I don't know if I should go into sort of the exact numbers for everything that happened there. I'm just having a look, because it's not everything that I can cover here, especially as I'm looking at that big jump that we had earlier. But I'll cover it however much I can cover it. In the month of September, I see here that my Barclays payment was about £220 that I paid for that month, and for the M&S it was about 119. You notice again the Barclays card has a smaller balance, and so everything that I had left over at the end of the month was going towards that. So let's make that point number 4. It goes without saying, if you watch this channel, I'm all about budgeting and planning for your money. And so once I had the absolute basics covered and with a little wiggle room, everything else that I left over went towards this. It took sort of being really aware for those few months, because I'd set myself a timeline for when I wanted this done. Okay, so that's the other point. When you have your budget done, which I'm hoping you are, anything that is left over, if you have a goal such as being debt free, throw it towards that. And that's how you see for the Barclays card, we're at that point making more than the minimum payments that needed to be done. Okay, so if we go down then to So by the 1st of October, we're at £6,946.95. And we get to the month of November. By the 1st of November, we were at £6,830.17. So for this month, it looks like we didn't manage to do too many minimum payments. So M&S, it was £113 that I paid towards that. And for Barclays, it was £276 I paid toward that. So again, we've done a little bit extra during that month. The other thing that happened that month as well, that was when I moved house. So I had some extra expenses to go for that month. So moving on to the month of December, I'm really ramping things up here. I'm throwing any money that I can into this Barclays account to get it cleared. I would sort of race myself, how can I drop it down past this threshold? So for example, say, how can we get down to less than 2,000? How can we get this down to less than 3,000? So those sort of challenges that I set for myself as well. The other thing that was really useful, and I know a lot of you might have found this, during the pandemic, and we weren't going out much, there wasn't much to do, lots of sort of extracurricular activities that we do, like dance classes, karate classes, things like that, they were closed. And so all of that money was being poured into this girl. So this last 12 months was crap in a lot of ways, but if we're going to find one thing maybe good that came out of it, it was having the extra money to put into a goal like this, because I wasn't doing all the things that I would normally do. So what was that? Point number 5, I'm going to call that. Okay, so let me just finish up the last point and then we can work through the rest of the numbers. I also took on a part-time gig as well. So I had a full-time job. I'm building this budget fairy coaching business, and also took on a part-time gig. It was a lot. It was stressful. I gave that up at the start of this year. But during that point last year, when this was the focus, when this was the goal, I took on something part-time to do as well. That is something that you might consider if you have a goal to pay off debt like this. So we go on to, so at the end of the start of December, we're at £6,240.31. That's what we had then. So we come into 2021. 2021, if you notice something, I don't know what happened here, but it looks like this did not move, and that doesn't make sense, because I definitely did pay something in the month of January, but at that point the minimum payment for this account was getting quite low. So I can see on here on my notes that I did pay £40.48. I literally could not do any extra for that month, so I did just the minimum payment. That's all I did. And then for the M&X, we had that was paid as well, minimum payment month there. So £6,129.29. Then we get to the 1st of February. We made some more payments there. So let's have a look. For the month of February, we again did just the minimum payment for both of them. So not much movement there, as you can see. And so by the 1st of February, £5,980.57. That for me was like getting below the £6,000 mark. That was a moment that I celebrated. I was really happy about that. Okay, so we get to the 1st of March. Let me pull this up. So the 1st of March, we did a little top-up payment again for Barclays. Not by much. I only paid about £70 at this point. The minimum payment was under 50. So making 70 was a bit extra. And the M&S minimum payment at that point was just over £100. And so that is what we did. So it works out just under £200 in total, that the total balance reduced by. So 1st of March, £5,752.27. So here we are in the month of April. Ooh, my app closed. There we go. So in the month of April, I tell you what happened in April. this is a thing. So you notice I have been doing the snowball method the whole time, paying the smallest balance and that being okay. Something that I did keep an eye on was, when was the 0% interest time frame going to end? And I got caught out. I got caught out with the M&S card. So don't be like me. Don't be like me with that one. I can put my hands up. I'm ashamed. But it caught up on me when the interest rate was 0% the whole time. And it must have been for 12 months because the 12 months was up. And so I got charged an interest. I think it was about £80, something like that. And that really pissed me off. That really rubbed me off the wrong way. And so that month of April, towards the end of the month, I said, you know what? The money that I have in my Forex account to make me money, that is great. It's making a decent amount. But if I'm going to pay that off in interest that this bank is going to charge me, then it's not worth it. So if you see here, from £5,649.37 at the start of April, in May, that's drastically reduced because I threw a bunch of money into the M&S. So I pulled money from that Forex account and threw it in here. Again, I know this is not something that's going to be available for everyone, but I just pulled that and I did that. This is on top of everything else that I've been doing. Side gig, really streamlining what was needed. Anything that was left over was being thrown into this. It was a complete focus and dedication. Keeping this up every single month, making sure I knew exactly what the numbers were. And like I said, comparing what it does to my net worth, that put an extra fire in myself and in my steps. So for that month of May, I paid £2,100 towards the M&S card, and the Barclays, I paid extra as well because at this point I could see the end. It was so close and I just wanted it done. And that was it. And then come the month of June, I knew I was likely going to be charged interest again. And so I just cleared it off. Now, I know it feels like, I don't know if it feels like there was some cheating there. What I want you to take away from this is more the strategies of how I got there, how I got in the mind frame of this is what we're doing. We're clearing that. This is what this time is for. We are going to be focused on this. We're going to throw everything at this. We're going to be very informed, like wake me up and ask me how much you owe. I know that exactly. What is the minimum payment? I know what that is. And just it's that oneness of purpose and focus and desire to get it done really going to make the difference then. Now, before I close this out, something else I wanted to show you on that page. We're going back to how the debt was created in the first place. I was so happy when we got to the zero here. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and that's where we're going to keep it. That's where we're going to keep it. If you like to, part of having the money set aside that I can pull from and clear things like this, when I noticed that the interest rate that the banks are going to charge me for that card was going to be more than I was making, I cleared that. That is a privileged position. Now, that wasn't handed to me. It was money that I had to save up and invest years ago that I could now access that. That is part of what comes with financial planning. Now, I was fine to take on those cards to pay for that because I knew it was going to be 0%. And I had the time. In that time, the money that I had set aside in my Forex accounts were making me money. And so that's how I sort of made sense of it and came to that decision. Excuse this stutter, I can't edit it out, so you're going to hear all of it. Now, since then, I've reassessed some of the things that I spent on and what else I can sort of pull from. And so I think I need to make this a little bit smaller again to show you what I've done. So for the website hosting, initially I had a premium account that was £181.80 a year. I updated that in March of this year. And so I was going through that. I downgraded it to basic. And so rather than paying 180 something pounds, it's now going to be £45 that I'm going to pay that for. The domain, nothing I can do about that, is £32.40. Now those ones I actually paid upfront. So I know when that's coming and I can pay for that. Something that I cancelled completely was the booster. On review, I don't know that it necessarily added value, so I went ahead and canceled that. So the other ones that I know for repeat, I know that they're not repeating at all. Now, this advertising one for Fox One, we had the pandemic that came up because I actually paid for this in January of 2020, and then 2 months later, pandemic hit, and now my ability to travel has been impacted. So I have verbally asked to cancel this. I'm waiting for the refund. When that comes through, that is money that's going to go back into either my investment or my Forex or anything like that. So I'm going to be able to get some of that back. Facebook advertising, those ones I know there. I have gone ahead and canceled the Get Response account as well, because there is actually a cheaper way that I can manage my email list and landing page. That's the word I've been looking for, landing page, where I share my freebies. So there's a cheaper way to do that. So I've gone ahead and canceled that. You can get free accounts like with MailChimp and things like that. For the amount of contacts that I have, I don't necessarily need to pay yet, but you live and learn. The other thing I went ahead and canceled was the email as well, because yes, it's nice to have an email that, you know, sounds a certain way, but at the point where you're just starting out and you're trying to justify expenses for the business, I did not necessarily need to have that at this point. So I went ahead and canceled that. So I actually canceled it before the payment was done. What else? The other thing I canceled was this mastermind, because I realized actually I wasn't using it as much. So I went ahead and canceled that. That was another thing that was going to repeat on a yearly basis. It's not much. It's only £49.35. But as part of the journey that I was on, I had to cut out things that weren't necessarily adding the value or things that I could do without the one. And I think that's it. Oh, I did have the total here. So the total amount sort of spent business related expenses was just over £14,000, and £2,000 worth of that was paid for upfront, and £12,000 was put on credit card, and that's what we cleared off at the start of this month. And so that's how I did it. That's how the journey was. And it's such a good feeling to be at this point. So just to capture sort of the steps on how we're able to do that. First of all, being clear on how much you owe completely. Let me try and fix here. Being clear on how much you owe completely. So having a tracking tool like this, where you can see on a month-to-month basis how much you owe in total, at least every month, to keep an eye on that. The other thing, comparing that against my net worth and how that impacted that. for me, that put a fire in my belly, because when I'm looking at what I have in total and then I have to deduct this £12,000, I don't like that. I want to get this cleared as quickly as possible. Next thing, knowing exactly what the minimum payments were, because if nothing else, you want to make sure you can make them. As you see from there were some months where that was all I could do. There was nothing else that I could add to that. Then the minimum payments are essential and they have to be made. Next, in my budgeting and planning, streamlining things. And so once the basics were covered with a little wiggle room, anything that was left over went towards that. I didn't wait until the end of the month to see what was left over. I worked out the amount at the start of the month. Most of the time it's even before. And I know, right, if this is what it's going to take to cover everything that needs to be covered, anything that's left over is already paid in. Because if you leave it there until the end of the month, it's going to find a way to go. So I was making top-up payments upfront at the start of the month. And I took advantage of the pandemic as much as we can, seeing as outgoing expenses for extra curricular things were happening. All of that money went into that. Then I had the tax rebate in July of 2020. The whole thing just went in there straight away. I just put it all in to go towards that. And I took on the part-time job. So we're at home. We're not going out much. On the evenings, I took on a side gig on top of everything else, and that raised some extra income to go towards that. A few £100 every month on top of what we had on there. And I think those were the main things. And instead of making it fun, setting a challenge for myself, like I said, how can we get on this mark, on this milestone, and just challenging myself to do more, to pay more, and all of that. So let me stop sharing that screen here. So that's how we paid off £12,000 in the last 12 months. And so it's such a great feeling. Now, when I review my net worth, I don't have to deduct £12,000 from that. Everything that is there is mine. Debt is gone. Everything that is there is mine. And so I don't think I make an insane amount of money, you know? So the point is, it's completely doable. It's completely doable with a plan, with some focus, with some determination. Put a time frame for yourself. For me, I wanted it to be done by the end of this year. And I probably would have stretched it to the end of this year if I didn't have that interest kick in. That really did something to me. I detest, absolutely hate. I do not want to be charged interest for money that I like. Yeah, just absolutely not. And so I think maybe if that hadn't kicked in, I probably would have stretched it out to the end of the year. But I'm glad that I did it as soon as I did. Let me see. I think that those were the main things that I wanted to cover for that. Like I said, I have a few video ideas as well coming up for the next few weeks that I went over the last time. So I'm just going to take my time and go over them. I've been here for nearly 40 minutes, so this is going to be fun trying to upload it. Every time I use StreamYard, it just takes absolutely ages for the videos to upload. I don't know why, but it's done now. I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you're one of the ladies that I worked with in a small group last year to tackle debt, let me know how that's going. How's that journey been for you? I know that I came off social media, but the focus on the goal, that did not change because that was something that I wanted for myself and we got it done. Okay, that's it from me. I will link, if I have any of the videos to do with that, budgeting, net worth, anything like that, I will add them in the description so you can go ahead and take a look. But have a fantastic rest of the day whenever this uploads, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.